According to Alice Park's 2018 longevity article, 1 in 10 people over the age of 65 in the U.S. has Alzheimer's disease. Without effective treatment, 16 million people could be affected by this disease by 2050. Now, you may be thinking, who cares? Well, consider that there are about 10 of you in this room, which means at least one of you will be suffering from this disease in your future. Including you, there are currently 325.7 million people living in the U.S., which means 40 million of those people are over the age of 65. So if 1 in 10 people over the age of 65 has Alzheimer's, that means that only 4 million people in just the U.S. are suffering from this disease. And since it's so common, you probably know at least one person who is suffering from it, and there's a limit that we can do to help them. But before I go any further, I'd like to first give you some background information on this subject. According to the Alzheimer's Association's 2018 Alzheimer's Facts and Figure article, Alzheimer's is a degenerative brain disease that is the leading cause for dementia. Currently, 60% of all cases of dementia are caused from Alzheimer's. Early symptoms of Alzheimer's include difficulty in remembering events, names, and conversations, as well as apathy and depression. Later symptoms include impaired conversation, confusion, behavioral changes, and ultimately lead in difficulties in walking and talking. The question is, what can we do? Because Alzheimer's is such a common disease, I'd like to share 3 important facts with you. First, I'll show you how old age and genetics can cause Alzheimer's disease. Next, I'll explain how we can diagnose Alzheimer's disease using neuropsychiatric tests and brain scans. Finally, I'll help you see the pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical forms of treatment for those who are suffering from Alzheimer's. I'll start by looking at my first viewpoint, which is how old age and genetics can cause Alzheimer's. To begin, according to Emma Walton's 2018 Biomedical Journal article, old age plays a significant role in diagnosing Alzheimer's, or AD. AD is caused by microscopic lesions on the brain called plaques and tangles. These plaques and tangles can damage nerves that are related to cognitive function, and old age can substantially increase your chances of developing these plaques and tangles, which ultimately will lead to Alzheimer's. In addition, there are over 25 genes currently known to affect the risk of developing Alzheimer's. The most well-known gene known is the APEO epsilon 4 allele. When this allele is damaged, you have a greater chance of developing more plaques and tangles. This damaged allele is highly hereditable, and those who are carriers of this allele have an 80% chance of developing Alzheimer's. Next, I'll explain how we can diagnose Alzheimer's using neuropsychiatric tests and brain scans. First, in a 2016 article in Neurologia, Perez Romero explains that when symptoms of Alzheimer's appear, to act quickly to get them correctly diagnosed. Romero explains that with behavioral and psychiatric symptoms, a system of correct and systematic neuropsychiatric tests should be used to evaluate the Alzheimer's. The Behavioral Pathology and Alzheimer's Disease Rating Scale, or BPADR test, is one of the most commonly used tests that we use to diagnose Alzheimer's. Additionally, in a 2016 article from the Mayo Clinic website explains a series of brain scans that can be used to diagnose Alzheimer's. These scans include MRI, CT, and PET scans. These scans rule out other diseases with symptoms similar to AD, as well as showing the degeneration of nerves in the brain to help diagnose it as Alzheimer's. Finally, I'll help you see the pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical forms of treatment available to those who have Alzheimer's disease. Let's first look at one form of treatment which is discussed on the Alzheimer's Association's website, which details the 5 medications that are currently FDA approved for those with Alzheimer's. These medications are Aricept, Razidine, Namenda, Exelon, and Namzaric. These 5 medications are administered to help slow the degeneration of memory-related nerves within the brain. Also, a non-pharmaceutical form of treatment called the cognitive therapy approach is detailed in the 2017 article on the Public MedHealth website. The cognitive therapy approach's goal is to slow down the delay of mental ability loss for those with AD. These non-drug treatments include memory and orientation exercises, art therapy, aromatherapy, and music therapy. Studies show that these cognitive interventions can help slow the loss of mental performance in moderate to mild cases of AD. I discussed a lot of information about Alzheimer's disease. Now I'd like to sum up my main points. First, I showed you how old age and genetics can cause Alzheimer's disease. Then I explained to you how we can diagnose Alzheimer's disease with neuropsychiatric tests and brain scans. Finally, I helped you see the pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical forms of treatment available to those with Alzheimer's. Hopefully, I've helped you to better understand this disease. Although there is no cure, there is still hope for those who are suffering as more research is being done to find a cure. If you'd like more information, I highly recommend going to the Alzheimer's Association website at www.alz.org. It's a really good website with a lot of current research about what we're doing to help those who have Alzheimer's. I'd like to leave you today with a final point, which was discussed in Alvaro Barrero's 2016 article in Columbia Medica. He details the current research that's being done to reverse the damage due to plaques and tangles on the brain, which could ultimately be a cure for those with Alzheimer's. He speaks out to those who are suffering to stay strong as more research is being done to help them.